My best friend killed me because I stopped her from letting a stranger inject mystery filler into her face for internet views. That was the part I could never forget, not the fall itself. Not the cold stairwell beneath my back. Not even the sound of my bones striking one step after another. What stayed with me was the look in Zhou Manman's eyes when she shoved me. She did not look frightened or sorry. She looked furious. As though my death were nothing more than compensation she had finally collected. Few months earlier, she had come to me with what she called a brilliant content idea. She wanted to find a roadside hair salon hidden in a narrow alley, pay 100 yuan, and let an unlicensed stranger inject filler into her hollow cheeks. Then, she would film the swelling cry in front of the camera and call it a cheap back alley cosmetic procedure challenge meant to expose shady businesses. She was certain the video would go viral. I had been horrified. Clinics like that used counterfeit products, dirty needles, and whatever mystery liquid they could buy cheaply. One careless injection could block a blood vessel, cause blindness, trigger a serious infection, or destroy the tissue in her face. I explained every risk I knew. By the time I finished, Zhou Manman's face had gone white. She abandoned the idea and returned to her ordinary office job. I thought I had saved her. Then, another creator filmed almost the same challenge. That woman gained 1 million followers, earned 100,000 yuan from a single advertising deal signed with a major MCN company, and began appearing online beside a Porsche convertible. At almost the same time, Zhou Manman's family in the countryside called and demanded 500,000 yuan for her younger brother's bride price. For years, they had treated her salary like family property, and her brother's comfort like her personal duty. Now they wanted an amount she could never earn through an ordinary job. The envy inside her turned into resentment. The resentment needed someone to blame. She chose me. One evening, she followed me into the company stairwell. Before I could turn around, both of her hands struck my back. I fell. As I tumbled down the concrete steps, her voice chased me through the stairwell. Linding. This is all your fault. You blocked my path to fortune. I should be the one driving a luxury car right now. You have to pay for what you did. The last thing I saw was her face above me, twisted with hatred. Then the world went dark. When I opened my eyes again, Zhou Manman was sitting across from me, shaking my arm impatiently. Ding ding. I'm asking you, what do you think? For several seconds, I could not answer. The office lights were too bright, my body did not hurt. My hands were uninjured. The calendar on the wall showed a date from before my death, before the viral video, before the MCN contract, before the stairwell. I had returned to the exact day Zhou Manman asked whether she should film the back alley cosmetic challenge. She leaned closer, her eyes bright with excitement. I found a little hair salon near the alley entrance. They said they can fill my cheeks for 100 yuan. I'll film the whole thing. Something goes wrong. I can post a crying video afterward and expose them. People love that kind of drama. Don't you think it'll blow up? In my previous life, I had reacted like a friend. I had warned her about cross-contamination, blindness, infection, and tissue necrosis. I'd begged her not to gamble with her face for a few days of attention. She listened only because my description frightened her. Later, when another influencer became rich using the same idea, Zhou Manman forgot that I had tried to protect her. She remembered only the money she believed she had lost. She had asked this same question then too. She had looked at me with the same hopeful smile, waiting for me to give her courage. This time, I gave her exactly what she wanted. Smiled warmly. It's a great idea. It hits people's curiosity perfectly. With a concept like that, you're going to succeed. Zhou Manman's whole face lit up. I knew you'd understand me. Ding ding, just wait until I make a fortune. I'll buy you that designer bag you've always wanted. She thumped her chest, as she promised, already acting as though the money were in her account. I smiled back and said nothing. In my first life, I had stood between her and the road she chose. She killed me for it. In this life, I would step aside and let her walk that road all the way to the end. Some shortcuts lead to fame. Others only make the fall arrive faster. Zhou Manman moved quickly. That very afternoon, she took half a day off to film. By the next morning, her first video was already displayed prominently on her profile. Everyone. This is the 100 yuan back alley cosmetic challenge. Today I've decided to change myself. I'm going to the cheap neighborhood hair salon at the entrance of the alley to get cheek filler and see what really happens. After that, viewers were told to wait patiently for the scene to change. Zhou Manman appeared seated in a dark room under dim lighting. A woman, who was not wearing a white medical coat, and who did not even have gloves on, held a syringe filled with cloudy liquid and stabbed it directly into Zhou Manman's face. The video ended with Zhou Manman grimacing in pain. By the next morning, the response had blown past every expectation. Likes and comments multiplied by the minute, and the comment section turned into a circus. My God, she's unbelievably brave. She actually dares to get an injection in a place like that. That liquid looks like industrial glue. Is she in that much of a hurry to destroy her face? So curious. Waiting for part 2 to see what her face looks like. There were also people who, like me in my previous life, warned her anxiously, don't be reckless. If they inject that into a blood vessel, you could go blind or suffer necrosis. But Zhou Manman ignored every warning. Zhao on our messaging app. She excitedly sent me several voice messages. Ding ding. I'm famous, I'm really famous. That first video alone gained 50,000 followers. I did not reply. I said nothing. A faint, humorless smile touched my lips. The faster she rose, the more brutally she would fall. What Zhou Manman saw as the beginning of her fortune was only the first link in a chain. She was already wrapping it around her own neck. Just then, a notification appeared on my phone, reminding me that a small online loan was nearing its due date. The message brought back something that had happened 2 years earlier. The time Zhou Manman had cried that her mother had stripped her entire salary from her, leaving her without money even for food. Out of pity, I had used my own name as her emergency guarantor for a 20,000 yuan loan from a credit app. In my previous life, I had been killed by her before I could deal with that loan. This time, I looked at the notification and casually swiped it away. All I cared about now was pushing Zhou Manman deeper into the mud. A few petty loan reminders were not important enough to distract me. I put the matter completely out of mind and continued watching my best friend's performance. The next morning, Zhou Manman posted part 2 exactly as expected. Everyone, please save me. My face is really ruined. In the video, her face was swollen like a steamed bun soaked in water. Both cheeks were red and inflamed. Tears and mucus streaked across her face. She played the victim perfectly, sobbing and accusing the hair salon of deceiving her. Internet users loved drama. When they saw her miserable appearance, sympathy swept over them, and they joined together in condemning the illegal cosmetic shop. Zhou Manman's video was pushed directly to the top of the trending searches. Just like that, Zhou Manman became famous. And where there was traffic, predators were never far behind. That evening Zhou Manman called me, her voice trembling with excitement. Ding ding. A huge MCN company just contacted me. They said they want to sign me and build my image into an online celebrity. They'll even cover all my medical compensation and take me to the best doctor. My life is about to change. Fearing the familiar sweet talk of blood-sucking capitalists, I kept my voice warm and replied, "That's wonderful. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You have to hold on to it." The next day, Zhou Manman immediately requested leave from work. She applied heavy makeup to hide the lingering swelling on her face. then hurried excitedly to the MCN company's headquarters. The company occupied the top floor of a gleaming office tower in the city center. A gold-plated logo dominated the reception area, and stylish employees hurried through the halls as if every second were worth money. The polished display of wealth overwhelmed Zhou Manman the moment she walked in. The man, who introduced himself as Director Wang, greeted her with a practiced smile that never reached his eyes. "Miss Zhou, you truly are a rare talent in the content creation industry. Yesterday's video achieved a record viewer retention rate. With our company supporting you and boosting your traffic, I guarantee you can earn 100,000 yuan in a single month. Even 1 million won would not be impossible." Director Wang spoke, as if money and fame were already waiting for her just beyond the next door. He handed Zhou Manman a thick contract, flipped straight to the final page, and pointed at the bold print. "The company will provide you with a luxury apartment downtown to use as a filming location. We will also provide a Porsche convertible for transportation and business engagements. We even have a private wardrobe of designer clothes and luxury handbags that you may borrow whenever you like. In exchange, you only need to sign here and grant us full control of your accounts." The promises were so extravagant that Zhou Manman stopped thinking clearly. As an ordinary office worker, she had never imagined herself behind the wheel of a Porsche, even a borrowed one. She wanted the fantasy to be real so badly that caution disappeared. She hurriedly took the pen and scrawled her name across the contract without even glancing at the pages of densely printed clauses before it. She had no idea that buried in that complicated legal language was an enormous breach of contract trap. If she refused to follow the company's content direction, the penalty would not be 10 or 20,000 yuan. It would be 3 million. The apartment was not hers. The Porsche was not hers. The handbags were not hers. The only thing she truly owned was the signature at the bottom of that contract. That evening, Zhou Manman messaged me and invited me to one of the most luxurious French restaurants in the city. When I arrived, Manman was already seated at a VIP table. She wore a silk dress covered in a conspicuous designer logo. Beside her chair sat a limited edition platinum handbag that even wealthy people could not necessarily buy. Ding ding. "Over here." Zhou Manman lifted her chin as she called to me. Her entire manner had changed. She carried herself like a pampered socialite from the upper class. I pulled out a chair and sat down, calmly studying her. Even the thick layer of makeup could not hide the 2 swollen lumps on her cheeks, left by the illegal filler. They bulged strangely, making her smile look twisted and utterly artificial. "You've risen fast lately. There's really no stopping you," I said with a smile, playing along. Zhou Manman proudly stroked the handbag, her tone full of condescension. "Ding ding. I think you should quit your job too. With a salary of 6,000 yuan a month, you could work your whole life and still never afford even a bathroom in this city. Look at me. The company just gave me a 3-bedroom Riverview apartment and the keys to a Porsche. Money is nothing but numbers to me now." Then she pulled out her phone and eagerly showed me another social media account. "I'll keep using my main account to cry and curse those illegal cosmetic businesses. But I made this secondary account to show off my daily life. Look. I only posted a few photos with the luxury car and designer goods, and already tens of thousands of people are following me. They all call me a rich, beautiful heiress. Internet users are such gullible fools. They're so easy to lead." I lowered my eyes to her screen. Every photo had been carefully edited, and each camera angle displayed the luxury to its fullest. In my previous life, this secondary account, named Manman's Diary, had become the blade that turned back on her. Now, history was repeating itself, and she seemed to be destroying herself even faster than before. The MCN company had never been benevolent. The so-called luxury apartment was actually a shared studio used by dozens of the company's online personalities. Each person received only a few hours to enter and take staged photographs. The Porsche was also rented by the day and had to be returned to the garage when the allotted time ended. As for the designer handbags, they were all sophisticated counterfeits produced in the company's own workshop. The company used these material illusions to satisfy the vanity of shallow people, like Zhou Manman, then fastened an invisible chain around their necks in the name of an exclusive contract. Congratulations. You're about to become a great star. I gently raised my glass of red wine, hiding the mocking curve at the corner of my lips. That moment, Zhou Manman's phone rang. The instant she saw the name on the screen, her expression changed. Her arrogance vanished, replaced by embarrassment and irritation. She answered. Shrill woman's voice exploded from the other end, so loud that I could hear every word from across the table. Manman, bring the money home this weekend. The bride's family is pressing us. If your brother can't gather the 500,000 yuan bride price this time, they'll call off the marriage. What kind of older sister are you, letting your own brother suffer this humiliation? It was Zhou Manman's mother, a rural woman deeply rooted in the belief that sons were precious and daughters existed to serve them. In her eyes, a daughter was merely a tool for earning money to support a son. For years, Zhou Manman had gritted her teeth and covered every expense for her younger brother. In my previous life, the crushing pressure from this family had driven her onto the path of murder. Zhou Manman gave me an embarrassed glance, covered the phone with one hand, and snapped in a lower voice. Mom, I'm entertaining an important guest. Calm down. 500,000 is 500,000. I'm about to earn tens of millions. I'll send you that pocket change later. Stop rushing me. She hung up sharply and let out an exaggerated breath, as though trying to prove her wealth and status to me. Family back home is so troublesome. They call for money over every little thing. But I'm about to become rich, so helping my brother a little is practically charity. I watched in silence as she tried to salvage her dignity with empty bravado. She was completely drunk on the fantasy of fame painted by those capitalists, unaware that she was dancing across a minefield, waiting to explode. Just then, my own phone screen lit up. An unfamiliar number called repeatedly. I frowned and rejected it. A moment later, a text message appeared. Overdue notice. Customer Zhou Manman's 20,000 yuan loan is past due. Please make payment immediately. If the customer continues to evade payment, we will contact the emergency guarantor, Lin Ding, and begin debt recovery measures. My gaze darkened. The debt from 2 years ago. That time, Zhou Manman had sobbed that her mother had taken every cent, leaving her unable to pay her rent. Out of sympathy, I had used my own name to guarantee a loan for her through an illegal online credit app. In my previous life, I had been pushed down the stairs and killed before I could resolve the trouble. I had not expected the debt collectors to remain so persistent. The greatest mistake kind people make is assuming that everyone else possesses the same conscience they do. My carelessness and misplaced trust back then had created a fatal weakness. Online loan collectors were not harmless. They would call my workplace to harass my superiors, distribute defamatory flyers, and destroy the guarantor's reputation to force money out of them. I glanced at Zhou Manman. She was still busy posing with her wineglass and taking photographs for her secondary account, completely forgetting the old debt she had left for me to clean up. 20,000 yuan was not a large amount to me now, but I would never pay a single coin on behalf of the woman who had once murdered me. I quietly slipped my phone into my bag as though nothing had happened. I thought the old loan was only an inconvenience. Soon it would become the sharpest weapon in the entire story. The appetizer had only just arrived. The real performance had barely begun, and I intended to stay until the final act. 3 days later, public interest in the illegal filler video began to fade. Internet users were fickle and easily bored. Once, Zhou Manman's swelling started to subside, and her face showed signs of recovery. They lost interest. Engagement collapsed. Comments became sparse. This enraged Director Wang. He summoned Zhou Manman to his office and slammed a stack of reports onto the desk. Look at these numbers. They're falling off a cliff. How are we supposed to attract sponsors? I did not lend you a luxury car and a beautiful apartment so you could sit around doing nothing. The audience needs something more shocking. Do you understand? Zhou Manman shrank back in fear and stammered. But the swelling is already going down. The doctor said the filler will dissolve in a few days. What am I supposed to do? Director Wang narrowed his eyes and smiled sinisterly. He pushed a crumpled business card across the desk. There is a surgical clinic in the eastern slums. Take a camera there. Ask them to cut your eyelids and shave your chin using the cheapest package. Remember to tell them not to be too gentle. Zhou Manman's face turned white. She waved her hands frantically. So Director Wang, if I let people in a place like that cut me open, what if I really develop an infection or necrosis? My face is how I make a living. How you make a living. Wang laughed coldly. His hard voice carried crushing weight. What this company needs is a miserable victim who can attract sympathy, not an ordinary young woman. You may refuse if you wish. We will simply follow the contract. Add the apartment rent and vehicle rental from the past few days to the unilateral termination penalty. Bring us 3 million yuan, and you may go wherever you like. The figure struck Zhou Manman like a hammer to the skull. Where could she possibly find such an enormous amount of money? If she refused the company's instructions, she would be sued, burdened with a mountain of debt, and mocked by everyone. Her image, as a wealthy goddess on her secondary account, would collapse. And she would once again face her family's contempt back home. Sanity had already seeped into her blood. Zhou Manman could no longer turn back. She stared at the business card on the desk. Her fists tightened until her nails dug deep into her palms. She told herself, what desperate people always tell themselves. Just one more time. Once this was over, money and fame would make up for everything. She had to become famous. She had to stand above me. Trembling, Zhou Manman reached out, snatched up the business card, and strode decisively out of the office. That afternoon, the camera light came on again inside a filthy operating room that reeked of disinfectant. By the time Zhou Manman understood what the contract really meant, her face had already become the company's most profitable product. Several days passed. The storm surrounding Zhou Manman continued to churn online. But I no longer paid attention to her mess. My own life gradually returned to a stable course. On Friday afternoon after work, I carried my bag down to the company's underground parking garage. The area was deserted. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead, creating a cold and eerie atmosphere. I had just inserted my key and was about to open the car door when a rough hand slammed onto the roof. You're Lin Ding, aren't you? Deep voice sounded behind me, carrying a faint threat. I turned and found two heavily tattooed men with brutal faces blocking every route of escape. The leader spat onto the ground and threw a crumpled stack of papers at me. Your good friend Zhou Manman borrowed 20,000 yuan from our credit app 2 years ago. Principal and interest, it has grown to 150,000. We can't reach her, so you, the emergency guarantor, are responsible now. 150,000 yuan. My heart skipped, and cold sweat formed on my forehead. This was my fatal weakness. In my previous life, blind sympathy had unknowingly tied me to Zhou Manman's filthy debt. These illegal loan collectors used despicable methods. If I refused to pay, they would harass my boss, throw foul-smelling waste at my home, and scatter defamatory flyers throughout my company. They intended to use psychological pressure to force me to surrender the money. The stupidity of my past had returned to bite me once again. But I had already died once. How could I allow petty thugs like these to frighten me? I drew a deep breath and forced my heartbeat to settle. My cold gaze swept across the two men. You have the wrong person. I'm only an ordinary office worker. My monthly salary barely covers my expenses. Even if you emptied every pocket I have, you still wouldn't find 150,000 yuan. The man frowned and stepped forward, raising a hand to seize my collar. You plan to dodge the debt. Don't blame us for being unpleasant. Wait. I lifted a hand to stop him, the corner of my mouth rising into a sharp smile. I don't have money. But I know the actual debtor is extremely wealthy. You collect debts for money, don't you? Why waste time on someone as poor as me when you could knock on the door of a gold mine? The two men hesitated. I immediately took out my phone and opened the secondary account, called Manman's Diary. The screen displayed photograph after photograph of Zhou Manman, carrying a platinum handbag, driving a Porsche convertible, and dining at the city's finest five-star restaurants. See for yourselves. Zhou Manman is now a famous internet personality signed to a major media company. She earns millions of yuan a month. Your 150,000 is only a few days of spending money to her. I explained calmly, striking directly at their greed. The tattooed man snatched my phone and stared at the extravagant images. He swore angrily. Damn it. She's this rich and still dares to default on our money. But that woman hides well. We went to her company and security wouldn't let us in. We went to her old apartment and she moved out ages ago. I laughed silently. Of course you couldn't find her. The MCN company kept her isolated inside studio compounds to film content. Outsiders could not easily approach her. But every hard shell had a vulnerable point, and I knew exactly where Zhou Manman's weakness lay. You may not be able to reach her, but I know where her family keeps their money. Spoke slowly, dropping each word like bait. People from the countryside often buy property in cash. Her parents recently used her money to purchase a luxury 3-bedroom apartment in Jiangnan for their precious son's marriage. The ownership documents are clear. Go there and put pressure on them. They care so much about appearances in front of the bride's family that they will immediately produce the money to repay their daughter's debt. I spoke. I removed a sheet of paper from my bag and carefully wrote down the exact address of the Zhou family's new apartment. Friend in real estate had helped me verify the information the day before. In my previous life, that family had drained Zhou Manman of everything and pushed her into murdering me. In this life, I would use the debt collector's hands to smash apart their false image of domestic comfort. Zug accepted the paper, cruelty flashing in his eyes. You're smarter than you look. If this address is real, we'll consider your debt settled. If it isn't, we'll come back and deal with you. With that, the two men turned, climbed into their vehicle, and sped away. The address in their hands would do more damage than any accusation I could have made myself. I remained in the underground garage, watching the fading trail of dust. It felt as though a massive stone had finally been lifted from my chest. Dupe. What you sell? Zhou Manman. Your family's performance has officially begun. The same time, inside a newly built luxury apartment complex in Jiangnan. The atmosphere in a 3-bedroom home was warm and comfortable. Zhou Hao, Zhou Manman's treasured younger brother, sprawled across the sofa playing a game on his phone. Their mother sat beside him, carefully peeling an apple and feeding each slice directly into the mouth of her 25-year-old son. Zhou Hao. This apartment was truly worth every cent. When your girlfriend's family comes to inspect it next week, their eyes will pop out. Remember to tell that useless sister of yours to hurry and send the remaining 500,000 yuan for the bride price. Once you're married, you must give me a chubby grandson right away. His mother chattered endlessly, pride spreading across her wrinkled face. You talk too much. I'm in the middle of a game, Zhou Hao snapped with a frown, giving no thought at all to his sister's sacrifices. In his mind, every yuan Zhou Manman earned naturally belonged to him. Bang. Bang go. The pounding on the door sounded like hammer blows, and shook the entire apartment. Startled, the mother dropped the fruit knife, muttered a curse, and shuffled over to open the door. The moment the door cracked open, the two tattooed men kicked it wide and stormed inside. Who are you? Who gave you permission to enter? The mother shrieked. Zhou Hao threw down his phone in terror and shrank into a corner. The leader pulled a loan agreement bearing Zhou Manman's identification photograph from his pocket and slammed it onto the glass coffee table. Open your eyes and look. Your daughter Zhou Manman owes us 150,000 yuan. If we do not receive the full amount today, I'll tear this apartment apart. At the figure of 150,000, the mother's face drained of color. But greed quickly overwhelmed her fear. She spread her arms, like a hen protecting its eggs, and screamed. This is outrageous. If that wretched girl owes you money, go find her. Why come to me? I have no money. Everything in this home is for my son's marriage. I won't give you a single cent. You won't. The tattooed man sneered and jerked his chin at his companion. The other man carried a bucket of bright red paint in from the hallway and flung it across the newly decorated living room wall. Scarlet paint streamed down onto the expensive wooden floor, grotesque as a crime scene. The harsh smell filled the room. My new home. The mother wailed in agony, clutching her head and rolling on the floor. Zhou Hao tremblingly pulled out his phone to call the police. But the leader stepped forward and struck him across the face so hard that sparks seemed to burst before his eyes. He stumbled and fell. You want to call the police? Go ahead. We're here to collect a legitimate debt. And we have the paperwork. Keep interfering. And I'll bring another dozen men to sit here all day. Let's see how you get married next week. Neighbors, come look. This family is drowning in debt, while pretending they can afford a luxury apartment. He shouted deliberately, letting his voice echo across the entire floor. Terrified that her son's reputation would be ruined, the mother scrambled up, grabbed her phone, and called Zhou Manman. She cried, and hurled the filthiest curses she knew, as though she wanted to drag her daughter home and beat her herself. That moment, inside a damp, illegal cosmetic clinic thick with the smell of disinfectant, Zhou Manman had just opened her eyes after the anesthetic wore off. Her face felt rigid. The pain was so severe that it seemed her jawbone was splitting apart. It's done. Get up and look in the mirror. The woman in the dirty gown tossed her a small hand mirror without concern. Zhou Manman took it with trembling fingers. The instant she saw her reflection, she released a piercing scream and dropped the mirror. It shattered across the floor. The face in the glass no longer looked human. Her eyelids had been cut carelessly. The wounds were severely swollen and red, the jagged sutures resembling centipedes crawling across her skin. Her chin had been shaved so deeply that it leaned visibly to one side, ending in a strange, unnaturally sharp point. Yellow fluid seeped from the wounds and mixed with the disinfectant, creating a scene of utter misery. Her face had truly been destroyed. My face. How did my face become like this? Zhou Manman sobbed and raised a hand to touch it. But a bolt of pain shot through her skull and forced her to recoil. The operating room door burst open. Director Wang entered with a professional cameraman behind him. The camera aimed directly at her distorted face. Instead of showing concern, Wang's eyes shone with intense excitement. Perfect. The visual impact is extraordinary misery, despair. This is exactly what internet audiences crave. Yesterday's engagement fell because you were not miserable enough. This time, I guarantee you'll break your viewing record. He clapped loudly in approval. Zhou Manman widened her inflamed eyes and shouted furiously, Are you insane? How can I face anyone looking like this? Take me to a major hospital immediately. I need a specialist to repair the damage. Director, Wang gave a faint, contemptuous smile. He walked closer and tapped the operating table with a finger wearing a gold ring. The hospital. Do you think this company is a charity? You signed with us to make money. This is the golden moment to harvest traffic. At 8 tonight, you will go live. You will cry and talk about the complications caused by an illegal surgery. Then use the opportunity to sell the company's herbal recovery masks. Since this is done, the company will give you a percentage so you can repair your face. I won't do it. My face hurts too much. I need emergency treatment. Zhou Manman clutched her face, tears pouring down. Cold sweat soaked the back of her clothes. You won't. Wang's expression turned vicious in an instant. With a curled lip, he recited the contract clause from memory. Failure to cooperate with the company's content direction constitutes a breach of the exclusive contract. The penalty is 3 million yuan. If you have 3 million to transfer into the company account right now, the door is over there. I won't stop you. Again. The figure of 3 million yuan stole Manman's breath. Her body shook violently, and despair swallowed her mind. She had no way back. The MCN company had never been a doorway to a better life. It was a machine built to grind desperate people into profit. Just then, Zhou Manman's phone rang loudly. It was her mother. Like a drowning person grasping a piece of driftwood, Zhou Manman answered in haste, ready to pour out her suffering and beg for the smallest trace of comfort from her family. My face is ruined. It hurts so much. But no comfort came. Instead, vicious curses tore through the speaker. You damned, worthless girl. Where did you borrow 150,000 yuan? Debt collectors came to our home and threw paint everywhere. Your brother's new apartment is ruined. Do you know that if the bride's family sees this, your brother may never get married? Zhou Manman froze. Her mind stalled, unable to process the words. What 150,000? What debt collectors? I don't know anything about that. You still dare argue. They brought documents with your name on them. I don't care how you do it. Transfer 150,000 today, so we can repay them and repaint the apartment. While you're at it, send the 500,000 for the bride price. Otherwise, I'll disown you and pretend I never gave birth to a disgrace like you. Her mother's words were like thousands of sharp knives, piercing Zhou Manman's ears. Physical exhaustion, pain, and emotional shock made her sway. She had emptied herself for this family. She had endured agony through clenched teeth to make money. In return, she received only endless, ruthless exploitation. The company deceived me. I don't have any money. Use your savings to pay them for now. Zhou Manman sobbed. Blood from the wound on her chin seeped onto her phone screen. Go die. My money is for your brother. Don't even think of touching it. If you have no money, borrow more or sell your life to repay it. I'm hanging up. The line disconnected with a cold series of beeps. Zhou Manman slowly lowered her arm. Her swollen eyes were empty as she stared into nothingness. Only darkness surrounded her now. Director Wang watched with his arms folded, showing no pity. He merely urged the cameraman to adjust the lighting. The company had ruined her face. Now, it intended to sell her pain by the box. Perfect collapse. Keep this exact emotion when you go live later, you'll make a fortune. I guarantee it. He spoke with satisfaction, preparing to squeeze the final drop of blood from his pitiful prey. The ring light shone directly into Zhou Manman's swollen eyes, forcing her to squint from the glare. The instant the livestream began, viewer numbers surged at a dizzying speed. The platform's algorithm always favored shocking content. Zhou Manman's bizarre, distorted face was the perfect spark to ignite that night's traffic. Everyone. I know I was wrong. Her voice was hoarse and desolate. Tears streamed over wounds that had not even begun to scab. Comments rushed across the screen like a waterfall, most expressing shock and sympathy. Online audiences were quick to offer pity when someone appeared far more miserable than they felt. Behind the camera, Director Wang signaled repeatedly. He held up a whiteboard with large words written across it. CJEHAJDEJ TILLTHIMHOWMISIROI GITZAADETOA DDTHIPZODUCITS. Zhou Manman bit her lower lip and suppressed the pain drilling through her skull. She continued acting according to the script the MCN company had forced into her mind. She wept as she described being deceived by a roadside cosmetic clinic, tearing away her arrogant facade and displaying her utter misery. When the audience's emotions reached their highest point, Director Wang struck the table and signaled her to change direction. But heaven has not abandoned me completely. A compassionate dermatologist helped me find this herbal recovery mask. It reduces swelling around my wounds and immediately soothes the burning pain. Look everyone. Without it, my face would already be covered in sores. Trembling, Zhou Manman raised a cheaply packaged box of masks toward the camera. It was the company's cruelest trick, turning public sympathy directly into sales. The livestream viewers had no idea that Zhou Manman's face had been cut open only a few hours earlier. Ignorance and pity clouded their judgment. They rushed to click the shopping basket and placed orders frantically, treating the purchase like a charitable donation to the miserable woman on their screen. The original price is 400 yuan. Tonight, during my live stream, you can get 3 boxes for only 99 yuan. Supplies are limited. Please order quickly and help me earn enough money to go to the hospital. Zhou Manman shouted, her shrill voice filled with desperate hunger for money. Sales figures danced across the screen, passing 200,000 yuan, and then 500,000. A manic light appeared in her eyes. Greed seemed to crush even the pain in her body. She firmly believed that if she sold all the inventory, she would have enough to pay the debt collectors 150,000 yuan, give her mother the full 500,000 bride price, and reclaim her status as a wealthy online goddess. At the same time, I sat comfortably on the sofa in my apartment, sipping cooling chrysanthemum tea, while watching the farce on my tablet with a cold expression. Zhou Manman's stupidity truly had no limit. The masks she was selling were merely cheap, illegally mixed skincare cream. Unlicensed workshops produced each box for less than 2 yuan. The ingredients were worthless and even contained banned substances that created skin dependence and eroded the epidermis. The MCN company knew all of this. It only wanted one final harvest before Zhou Manman's value was exhausted. In my previous life, I stopped her from going under the knife. Yet she resented me for blocking her path to wealth. In this life, I allowed her to rush toward destruction, and even used the illegal loan collectors to accelerate her collapse. My carelessness in leaving that old guaranteed debt unresolved had seemed like a fatal weakness in my hands. However, it became a sharp lever that forced Zhou Manman and her blood-sucking family to tear one another apart. After 3 hours, the live stream ended. The moment the camera shut off, Zhou Manman collapsed across the table, gasping. Sweat soaked through her bandages and loosened them. Blood began to seep again, but she no longer cared about her face. She jerked her head up and grabbed the hem of Director Wang's shirt. Sales exploded. Director Wang, give me my percentage. I need the money now. 200,000 no, transfer 500,000 to me immediately. Her voice was cracked and hoarse, mixed with the threat of someone driven into a corner. Director Wang flung her hand away and brushed his clothing as though he had touched garbage. Smile vanished. What remained was the cold impatience of a man who had already extracted what he wanted. You an idiot. The customer's orders have not even been delivered. The accounts still have to be reconciled. Then, we deduct the payments used to manipulate the algorithm. the advertising costs, and the studio rental. Every expense comes out of the revenue. The company's settlement cycle is 30 days. Go back to the dormitory and wait obediently. 30 days. Zhou Manman screamed. No debt collectors are harassing my mother. They threw paint all over the apartment. If I wait 30 days, my mother will beat me to death. You deceived me. She lunged at Director Wang in a frenzy, trying to claw him. But two powerful security guards immediately seized her arms and forced her down. Her distorted face scraped against the cold floor. The pain brought tears streaming from her eyes. Stop making trouble. Director Wang crouched beside her and patted her cheek with the stack of documents. The contract is written in black and white. You want to break the rules. Fine. Pay the 3 million yuan breach penalty, and I will release you immediately. Otherwise, go back to your room and apply medicine yourself. Do not dirty my floor. The guards dragged Zhou Manman roughly out the door, threw her into a shabby van, and drove her straight to the run-down apartment complex the company rented for its lowest-ranking employees. The luxury river view apartment, the Porsche convertible, and the platinum designer handbag had all been soap bubbles. Now, the bubbles had burst, leaving behind a brutally miserable reality. Locked inside a cramped, damp room, Zhou Manman tremblingly called her mother. Each long ring cut across her nerves like a saw. At last, someone answered. Please give me 1 more month. I sold a lot of products. The company is holding the money. Next month, I'll send you 1 million yuan. Please believe me. Zhou Manman wept and begged, clinging to a thread of hope. Her mother answered in a voice so cold and merciless that it made the skin crawl. I have no daughter like you. Go sell your life and repay the debt. I already called the police. So those collectors do not dare come back. For this apartment, I'll transfer it directly into your brother's name tomorrow. Do not bring that ruined face home and disgrace our family. I'm your biological daughter, Zhou Manman cried in despair. Giving birth to a useless daughter like you is the shame of the Zhou family. The call ended decisively. Zhou Manman stared at the dark phone screen. She had poured out her entire life to earn the money that bought her brother's apartment. Yet, when disaster came, her family not only refused to save her, but kicked her farther into the abyss. Resentment surged through her chest, becoming a black flame that burned away the last traces of reason in her mind. But Zhou Manman's nightmare was only halfway over. The true storm was still gathering online. 3 days later, I entered the office in a finely tailored business suit. That day I officially received my promotion to head of the communications department. Everything was proceeding perfectly. I sat in the soft leather chair, turned on my computer, and opened social media. At the very top of the trending search ranking, glowing in red, was the hashtag debt. HOUMANMANEPRAUD. I leaned back with a faint smile. The real entertainment had begun. Thousands of expose posts appeared like mushrooms after rain. Customers who had bought Zhou Manman's herbal masks 3 days earlier uploaded photographs of faces covered in pustules, red rashes, and severe allergic reactions. This is a scam. I bought them because I felt sorry for her, and now my face is covered in sores. The dermatology hospital confirmed that the masks contain an extremely high concentration of corticosteroids. One post attached a medical certificate and received millions of views. That wicked woman sold counterfeit masks to earn money for cosmetic surgery. Everyone report her and get her channel shut down. The internet users, who realized they had been manipulated and treated like fools, reversed their attitude completely. Their sympathy transformed into extreme fury. They flooded Zhou Manman's account with the most vicious curses, wishing her a miserable death. And it did not stop there. The power of online crowds was terrifying. They quickly unearthed Manman's diary, the secondary account where she flaunted designer goods and luxury cars. Photographs of her carrying a platinum handbag and dining at five-star restaurants were placed beside images of her sobbing miserably during the live stream. Look at this. How is she poor or desperate? She lives in a mansion, drives luxury cars, and looks down on ordinary people. That video of her ruined face must have been scripted by the MCN company too. Her lies were stripped bare. The wave of online anger spilled into the real world. Large numbers of formal complaints were sent directly to the Market Regulation Authority and the streaming platform. In less than half a day, the platform issued an official announcement. Though both of Zhou Manman's accounts were permanently banned for consumer fraud and the distribution of harmful content. Once the situation slipped beyond control, the MCN organization immediately discarded its pawn. It released an emergency statement denying all responsibility and placing the blame entirely on Zhou Manman. Statement claimed that selling counterfeit products had been her personal action, and that the company had known nothing about it. Naturally, Director Wang did not forget to deliver one final fatal blow. The MCN company's legal department immediately filed a lawsuit against Zhou Manman. It accused her of severely damaging the company's reputation and violating the morality clause, demanding the full 3 million yuan contractual penalty plus compensation for losses suffered by business partners. Their fame had vanished in less time than it had taken to build. The debts, however, were real. The news reached Zhou Manman while she was writhing with fever from the infection in the open wounds on her face. An MCN employee threw the court summons directly at her. When she saw it, Zhou Manman collapsed completely. She had no money for medical treatment. She carried a 3 million yuan debt to the company and a 150,000 yuan debt to the illegal lenders. Internet users were publicly tearing her apart, and her own family had abandoned her. Once a woman desperate for fame and fortune who wanted to climb over everyone else, Zhou Manman had dug her own inescapable grave. I took a sip of coffee and looked calmly at the bustling city below. Satisfaction spread through every cell in my body. Heaven's net might be wide and loosely woven, but nothing escaped it, especially when the wicked tied themselves into it. The next day, a group claiming to be dispute resolution employees from the MCN media company smashed open the door of Zhou Manman's miserable room. Without explanation, they gathered every cheap personal possession she owned and threw everything into the hallway. Burning with fever from the infected wounds on her face, Zhou Manman staggered up and wrapped her arms around one employee's leg. What are you doing? The company rented this room for me. You have no right to throw me out. The employee kicked her away and spat on the floor. What company would rent a room for contract-breaking trash like you? Director Wang ordered every one of your benefits frozen. The lawsuit has already been filed. Your bank accounts will soon be frozen for debt collection. Be obedient and prepare the full 3 million yuan. Otherwise, you can spend the rest of your life in prison. The metal door slammed shut in Zhou Manman's face, and it seemed as though the sky had collapsed completely. She clutched her swollen face, from which cloudy yellow fluid seeped, and tremblingly picked up the cheap clothes scattered across the floor. She had nowhere to go and not a single coin left. The MCN company had squeezed her to the final drop of blood, transforming her from a healthy person into a ruined woman burdened with enormous debt. In the depths of despair, one name flashed through Zhou Manman's mind. At the bottom of the pit, she remembered the one person she still believed she could use. Lin Ding. That was right. Lin Ding had once guaranteed her loan. Lin Ding had a stable job and had been her best friend for years. If she cried, begged, and awakened their old friendship, Lin Ding would surely soften and lend her money for treatment, or at least take responsibility for the 150,000 yuan debt. Once the thought appeared, Zhou Manman dragged her ruined body onto a crowded bus and traveled directly to my office building. That time, I stood in the ground floor lobby holding a steaming coffee I had just bought from the convenience store. I was about to enter the elevator reserved for management when a foul-smelling dark figure rushed toward me and grabbed my arm. Ding ding. Save me. I instinctively stepped back and looked coldly at the person kneeling on the floor. Zhou Manman, before me, resembled a demon. Her face was distorted and inflamed. The fat beneath her eyelids protruded through the unhealed, cheaply made incisions. Her chin leaned grotesquely to one side. Silk dress she had once worn to show off was now wrinkled and covered in dirt. "Who are you looking for?" I asked calmly, deliberately refusing to acknowledge her in front of the crowd. Zhou Manman raised her face. Her desperate eyes clung to me like someone grasping a life preserver. "Me. I'm Manman. Ding ding, can you lend me 50,000 yuan so I can see a doctor? And that credit debt too, you are the guarantor. Help me repay it first. Once I cancel the contract with the MCN company, I'll find work and repay you twice as much." Short, disbelieving laugh escaped me. Even now, she believed she could use that old guarantee to bind me. My carelessness in my previous life had created a tragedy. In this life, however, I had already blocked every possible path she could use against me. Zhou Manman, what you're saying is ridiculous. I bent slightly and lowered my voice so only she could hear. I already asked a lawyer to resolve that debt. I filed a police report for fraudulent appropriation of funds. The loan was transferred directly into your bank card. And the ATM camera clearly recorded you withdrawing the money. The debt collectors are not foolish enough to pressure an innocent guarantor when there is clear evidence identifying the principal debtor. Zhou Manman's face turned deathly pale. Her lips trembled, but no words came out. She had never imagined that her final life preserver would turn into a sharp blade, cutting away every remaining hope. "We're best friends. How can you be so heartless? Does seeing me this miserable make you happy?" Zhou Manman screamed deliberately, making a scene to attract the attention of everyone nearby. I straightened and lightly brushed the hem of my neat suit. "Best friends. When you pretended to be a wealthy goddess, flaunted luxury cars and apartments, and told me to quit my job, did you treat me as your best friend? You chose this path. You signed the contract. You allowed those people to cut into your face. Now that the consequences have arrived, you expect me to carry them for you. Do you think the world revolves around you?" I waved to two large building security officers. "Please, remove this beggar. She is damaging our company's image." The guards immediately seized Zhou Manman under the arms and dragged her through the automatic glass doors. She struggled helplessly, staring at my straight back with venomous eyes. Her false mask had been stripped away, leaving only naked misery. I entered the elevator and erased the trouble-named Zhou Manman from my life completely. Thrown onto the street, Zhou Manman resembled a deranged stray dog. When I refused to carry her consequences, she turned toward the family for whom she had sacrificed everything. That was where her final illusion would die. She had only one place left to seek: the family for whom she had sacrificed everything. No matter how viciously her mother cursed her, they were still related by blood. She believed that if she knelt, begged, and showed her parents the court summons, they could not possibly watch her go to prison. Besides, the money used to buy the apartment had been earned through her sweat and pain. Surely they could not heartlessly drive her away. Gathering the last few coins from the bottom of her pocket, Zhou Manman took the cheapest long-distance bus back to the luxury apartment complex in Jiangnan. When she stood before the brand-new apartment she had financed, the first thing she saw was the dark red paint the debt collectors had splashed across the entrance days earlier. The hardwood door was scratched, and the smell of paint still lingered. Zhou Manman drew a deep breath and raised her hand to knock. From inside came the cheerful voices of her mother and an unfamiliar woman. The door opened. Her mother had been smiling brightly, but the smile stiffened and vanished the instant she saw the monster standing outside. Zhou Manman called, tears flowing across her distorted face. Her mother stared in shock for several seconds. Then astonishment transformed into extreme anger. She hurriedly looked along the hallway to see whether any neighbors were watching, grabbed Zhou Manman by the collar, dragged her inside, and slammed the door. Why did you bring that demon face back here? I already told you I had to sound you. Her mother hissed, through clenched teeth, her voice poisonous as a snake. In the living room, Zhou Hao sat watching television. The moment he saw his sister's revolting appearance, and smelled the odor coming from her wounds, he covered his nose and frowned in disgust. What did you do to end up like this? Are you trying to bring some disease into this home? My engagement ceremony is next week. Get out of my sight. Zhou Manman collapsed to the floor, wrapped her arms around her mother's calf, and sobbed desperately. Some save me. The company is demanding 3 million yuan in compensation. If I cannot pay, they'll send me to prison. My infection is serious. I need money to go to the hospital. Use your savings to save me, or sell this apartment. I promise I'll work like an ox for the rest of my life to repay you. The instant she mentioned selling the apartment, her mother reacted as if someone had stepped on her tail. She swung her arm and slapped Zhou Manman's swollen face with all her strength. The crack was deafening. The furious rural woman did not hold back. The blow struck Zhou Manman's recently shaved chin, sending her rolling across the floor and screaming in pain. Fresh blood, mixed with yellow pus, burst from the reopened stitches and stained the expensive carpet. Sell the apartment. Are you insane? This is my son's home. It represents the future of the Zhou family. Who do you think you are to demand that we sell it? Her mother pointed at Zhou Manman and cursed without mercy. We spent more than 20 years feeding and raising you. The moment you made a little money, you brought home a mountain of debt and let thugs come here to cause trouble. The bride's family came to inspect the apartment yesterday. When they saw the red paint outside, they nearly canceled the marriage. Do you understand? Zhou Manman clutched her bleeding face and stared up at her mother. Every cruel word drilled into her heart. But I sent home the money that bought this apartment. More than half of it came from my sweat and suffering. When you wanted money, you called me your good daughter. Now that I'm in trouble, you want to disown me. She screamed, driven mad by the brutal truth. You are a daughter. Once you marry, you become water, poured out of the family. Helping your younger brother is your natural duty. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for being stupid and greedy enough to let people cut your face and deceive you. Her mother folded her arms, utterly cold and heartless. Zhou Hao rose from the sofa and nudged Zhou Manman's side with the toe of his shoe. Stop making a scene here. Yesterday, Mom went to the local office and transferred all the property into my name. The legal documents also include a declaration separating you from this household. Your debts have nothing to do with this home now. Get out, stop dirtying my carpet. A declaration severing her from the household. All the property transferred into his name. Each word from her younger brother exploded beside Zhou Manman's ears like thunder. Her entire body went numb, and her breathing stopped. They had prepared this cruel performance in advance to block every remaining path of survival. Only then did she understand that, in the eyes of this family obsessed with sons and contemptuous of daughters, she had never been a human being. She was merely a machine for printing money. An animal kept alive so her blood-sucking brother could drain her. The moment she lost all value and returned carrying illness and debt, they kicked her into the street without a trace of pity. In my previous life, my intervention had caused her to miss what she saw as a chance to become rich. When her mother pressured her for the bride price, she hated me and killed me. In this life, I cleared the road and allowed her to charge into the mud. She offered everything to this family with her own hands, only to be kicked by them into the deepest level of hell. Betrayal, by one's own flesh and blood, was the cruelest pain of all, 10,000 times sharper than any blade against the body. Zhou Manman stopped crying. She slowly pushed herself up. Blood and pus covered her face, yet a strange smile formed across it. Her despair had passed the limit of endurance and transformed into deranged hatred. They wanted to discard her and continue living happily. They were dreaming. If she had fallen into hell, she would drag every one of them down as burial companions. Zhou Manman staggered up from the cold floor. She did not cry or shout. She simply turned and walked out of the luxurious apartment in a silence so eerie that it chilled the air. The lock clicked behind her like a final slash, cutting away the last fragment of humanity left in her mind. They wanted to force her to die. She was no longer going to the engagement banquet to ask for mercy. She was going to make sure no one escaped untouched. Then, they could all descend into hell together. Only one crumpled 50 yuan note remained in Zhou Manman's pocket. She dragged her swollen legs along the street and turned into a shabby chemical supply shop, hidden deep inside a deserted alley. She threw the note onto the counter and pointed at a cloudy plastic bottle in the corner of a shelf. It contained a powerful industrial cleaning chemical used to corrode rust from metal. It was cheap but terribly destructive. The shop owner hesitated when he saw her face completely covered, but greed for the small payment won. With an impatient click of his tongue, he sold it to her. Zhou Manman hugged the plastic bottle to her chest like a priceless treasure. A crazed smile rose at the corner of her mouth. Exactly 1 week later, Zhou Hao's engagement ceremony was held with great extravagance in the banquet hall of the largest royal hotel in Jiangnan. By claiming ownership of a luxury 3-bedroom apartment purchased entirely in cash, Zhou Hao had deceived a young woman from a well-known wealthy family into accepting him. Expensive flowers filled the hall, and rare delicacies covered the banquet tables. Zhou Hao's parents were dressed magnificently. Gold jewelry glittered from his mother's neck and wrists. She moved from table to table, with her chin raised high, boasting to the bride's relatives. "Dear-in-laws, you can safely entrust your daughter to our family. My Hao is a director young, capable, with a home and a car. The two of them will spend their future enjoying wealth without hardship." She laughed loudly, her smug voice echoing through the hall. The bride's relatives nodded in approval. Everyone praised and admired the groom's family background. Zhou Hao stood beside his beautiful fiancée in a sharp suit, carrying himself like a wealthy young master born with a silver spoon. They had completely forgotten that behind this false glamour lay Zhou Manman's sweat, blood, and very life. Just as the ceremony reached the exchange of rings, the main doors of the banquet hall were shoved open. A cold draft entered, carrying the foul smell of infected wounds and cheap disinfectant. Every guest turned at once. The woman stood in the doorway wearing a long, oversized black coat, a hat pulled low, and a mask covering her entire face. No one recognized her. She walked slowly toward the stage. Security guards moved to stop her, but she quickly snatched the microphone from the host. "Is security? Throw this beggar out immediately," Zhou Hao's mother shouted angrily, already sensing disaster. Zhou Manman did not answer. She slowly removed her hat and tore away the mask. The instant her true face was exposed beneath the brilliant crystal lights, screams of horror erupted throughout the hall. The bride stumbled backward in terror, lost her footing, and fell. Guests below covered their mouths, fighting nausea. Zhou Manman's face was now severely infected. The cuts across her eyelids and chin had become necrotic, leaking yellow fluid. It no longer resembled a human face, but the embodiment of a demon. Are you frightened? Look carefully. I am Zhou Manman, the biological older sister of the honorable groom, standing before you. Her hoarse voice rasped through the microphone, making every word more piercing and savage. Her mother's face turned green. She stammered, unable to speak clearly. See you. What are you doing here? I already disowned you. You disowned me so you could swallow the apartment whole. Zhou Manman burst into manic laughter that battered everyone's ears. She turned toward the stunned bride's family and spoke each word with force. You have all been deceived. Zhou Hao is nothing but a useless parasite. I gritted my teeth, allowed injections to destroy my face, and earned the money that bought that 3-bedroom apartment for him. He is not a director of anything. The bride's father slammed a hand on the table and stood, his face dark with rage. What does this mean? Explain yourself immediately. There is more. Zhou Manman gave them no chance to respond. This family owes illegal lenders 150,000 yuan. Those men splashed red paint across the apartment last week. And I am being sued by an MCN company for 3 million yuan. If you marry your daughter into this family, she will spend the rest of her life working to repay the debts of these bloodsuckers. The entire hall erupted. Zhou Manman's words landed like an atomic bomb in the middle of the celebration. The wealthy image the Zhou family had spent years building shattered in front of hundreds of witnesses. The bride screamed, tore off the engagement ring, and threw it directly into Zhou Hao's face. Flayar. It's over, sir. Furious family stormed out, overturning several expensive banquet tables on their way. The unbearable humiliation drove Zhou Hao mad. He charged toward Zhou Manman like a blood-crazed animal, raising a fist toward her face. You insane woman. You destroyed my life. I'll kill you. His mother screamed and rushed after him, ready to tear apart the daughter she had always treated as garbage. But Zhou Manman showed no fear. She remained still, the corner of her mouth lifting in a smile of complete satisfaction. The moment Hao came within reach, Zhou Manman thrust a hand inside her coat, pulled out the cloudy plastic bottle, twisted off the cap, and hurled all of the deadly liquid toward her precious younger brother and cruel mother. Chilling hiss sounded as the powerful industrial cleaner took effect. White vapor rose from their skin. My eyes, my face. Zhou Hao collapsed, clutching his face and rolling across the floor in agony. His mother was struck across the neck and shoulder. The chemical burned her skin and left her convulsing from pain. Screams and the sharp, scorched odor of chemical burns transformed the magnificent banquet hall into a scene of horror. Panicked guests trampled over one another as they fled. Police and ambulance sirens wailed in the distance, cutting through the city's chaos. Zhou Manman did not run. She stood amid the wreckage and admired the work of her own hands. Her family's most precious son would now lie blind and disabled. Her vicious mother would carry permanent injuries. They had wanted to enjoy happiness built upon her suffering. Now she had shown them what it meant to live in a state worse than death. Zhou Manman's wild laughter echoed throughout the hall, until 2 police officers rushed in, subdued her, locked handcuffs around her wrists, and dragged her away. 1 month later, I sat in my spacious new office, sipping fragrant coffee as I watched the computer screen. The local news was replaying the horrific case at the Royal Hotel. The Zhou family's outcome that day was so miserable that few could believe it. Zhou Hao suffered extensive chemical burns, permanently lost his sight in both eyes, and had his appearance completely destroyed. His mother was severely injured and lost the use of one arm. To cover her son's enormous hospital bills and appease the illegal lenders who came to the hospital day and night demanding payment, Zhou Hao's father was forced to sell the luxury apartment at a ruinously low price. Their entire lifetime of savings vanished. The family returned together to their dilapidated rural home, burdened with crushing debt, and a disabled son unable to care for himself. For the rest of their lives, they would be trapped in regret, resentment, and extreme poverty. For Zhou Manman, the court relied on a forensic psychiatric evaluation and concluded that severe psychological pressure had caused paranoid schizophrenia. She was deprived of civil capacity and confined in a maximum security psychiatric hospital without proper treatment. The necrotic wounds on her face continued to ulcerate until she truly resembled a monster. Day and night, she screamed within four cold, white walls. The MCN company continued its 3 million yuan claim against her. But because she had been declared mentally ill and owned no assets, the debt became uncollectible. The MCN company did not escape unscathed either. Zhou Manman's case shocked the public. Authorities launched a broad investigation into illegal cosmetic clinics and MCN organizations suspected of exploitation and fraud. Their channels were shut down one after another. Brands canceled their contracts. Director Wang was detained for investigation on suspicion of selling counterfeit, substandard products, and encouraging others to violate the law. The so-called factory for manufacturing internet celebrities was nothing more than a collection of social parasites, and the law finally swept them away. I turned off the computer screen and stretched lightly. The game was over. Every grievance from my previous life had finally been settled. Looking back, I still shuddered when I thought of the fatal weakness I had carried into this life. The 150,000 yuan debt attached to my name as guarantor. My foolish compassion and carelessness in the past had almost dragged me into the mud beside Zhou Manman. If I had panicked in the underground parking garage that day, surrendered to fear, or used my own money to repay my best friend's debt, the thugs might have continued clinging to me and draining my blood. Zhou Manman might still have been living comfortably as a false online goddess. But I had not done that. I borrowed the strength of one enemy to strike another, turning the very blade Zhou Manman pointed at me back toward her toxic family. Cold, resolve, and decisiveness were the only weapons for survival in a society filled with deception and struggle. Warm morning, sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows and illuminated the brass nameplate neatly placed on my desk. Zlin, Din go hat iadofcommu nicatonet. My career advanced rapidly. My salary became generous, and I purchased my own home and car through real ability. I never needed to go under a reckless cosmetic knife, sell my dignity, or perform misery online for sympathy. I rose and walked to the window, looking down at the endless flow of people and vehicles below. City moved below me without pause, indifferent to anyone consumed by greed or delusion. As for me, I had finally cast off the shadow of my previous life and stepped confidently onto my own road filled with light. From that day forward, the life ahead of me finally belonged to me, quiet, hard-earned, and free. I had not survived because someone saved me. I survived because this time, I stopped paying the price for choices that were never mine.